What is that one like? I don't like that. Let's do that one. That's better. That's a little more for travel, that little world. But then there's also this one. We'll try that one tonight. I personally really like the out of focus backgrounds myself. Those are nice.
Yeah. So you didn't find that blurry thing?
No. So what it does, it kind of makes the whole background. Let's see, who told me that? It was Allie.
Yes.
She said you click on the little arrow and you can choose a virtual background or choose video settings. And in video settings, I was looking to see.
I think you should go to choose a virtual background, and then there must be, and then there is an option like blur. Do you want me to share my screen so that I can show you?
Sure. Thank you.
You have to allow me actually.
Oh, you gave me the power back.
Yep.
Well, actually, I don't have to change. I changed host, but I forgot I could have let you do it with under share screen. Okay. Anyway, you'll have to give me power back.
All right. So. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I have to. I don't know why, but oh man. I'm sorry. I was mute. Russ, here is the option. Can you see? You are mute. You are mute. Actually, let me unmute.
I don't have one that says blur. I see what you mean. I'm on a Mac. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Oh wow. Yeah, maybe.
I'll have a look in a
Maybe.
minute. I just realized I've got to get Rick Steves ready. So I have still a couple minutes here. I just have to find him. There, Middle Eastern cuisine. There we go. Okay. We're going to start this evening in Cairo. So let me go once more to my background. I'll show you my screen.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, okay.
Why don't you
So
make
let
me host again?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, John. Are you our TA tonight? You are. Great. Glad to have you here again. You were here last night, I think. Yep. So when I do it, this is what I get right here. I go to preferences, background filters. None of mine say blur. Yeah, I guess that's the problem. I can add one. Well, we won't worry about it. We'll just stick with blue for tonight. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Russ. So I'll be leaving you guys. Have a great
Okay.
class.
Thanks, Harry.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And in about 3 minutes, I'll hit the record button. John, I'll make you co-host. Certainly will. Well, let's see. Oh, you are co-host. You are good. Okay. I think you remember last night, I just asked you to keep an eye on anyone that isn't muting. A couple nights ago, I had somebody who was just accidentally kept on muting themselves, and we kept getting the TV or something like that in the background. So let's see. Oh, okay, maybe. Yeah, okay. You were in the last class, or you were in a class. I remember. Last night, whenever we were in doing Ireland, I had Brandon. I remember Brandon, and I know you were in a class. Perhaps it was 2 nights ago. Last night, we were doing festivals of Europe. Good evening. Hi, Susan.
Hello.
Good to see you all.
Hello.
Hi, Judy.
How are you?
Hi, Linda. I'm doing very well.
Hello.
Hi, Phyllis. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Patricia. I hope you all had supper tonight. I always have to warn you before we do food. Oh, very good. Susan's got the right thing going there. I just ate, so I'm really glad. I really like Middle Eastern food. That's what we're going to be doing tonight. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Wanda. Hi, Phyllis. Hi. I think I said hi, Linda. I'll say hi to you again if I didn't.
Hi.
Tonight, this is special. I'll talk about it more because Rick Steve's thing is Europe. So to do the Middle East is a little bit out of the ordinary for Rick. I'm glad. Though, if any of you heard his interview, well, I can't remember if it was his interview last week or the podcast I heard after it. Rick said that his favorite country in the world is India. And the reason he doesn't do India is because, let me put it this way, the thing he likes about India is because he loves the way the unexpected happens. That's why he loves it so much. He says that's not so good for a tour group. Good to see you all. Why don't folks put in the chat where they're from while we're waiting for the last few people to join. I do know where quite a few of you are from, but that way you can learn where each other is from. Phyllis is from Ohio. Linda's from Orange Park, Florida. Susan is from Houston. Susan Braden's from Houston. And I happen to know that Joanne Thomas is from Horseshoe Bay, Texas, because we've had this conversation a lot. And I finally found out that Horseshoe Bay is on a river. And Patricia's from New Hampshire. Wanda is from Charlotte. I think I've had this conversation with you too. I love Charlotte. My parents lived there when I was in college. I didn't grow up there, but I spent summers there working, and I loved Charlotte. Very nice town. Very nice city. Hi, Donna. And hi, Jennifer. Welcome. We're all putting in the chat where we're from. Jennifer is from Bronx. Susan, Houston, Orange Park, Florida, Ohio.
I'm on right now.
Hmm. Patricia's from El Dorado Hills, California. So you're here before supper time. Well, it's nice to have you all joining on this Wednesday evening. Give it about one more minute. We got Petra joining.
Hello, hello.
Petra, you want to put in the chat where you're from? And Donna, where you're from, if you would.
No. Ah, where'd it go?
I thought I sent it. It's Walnut Creek, California.
Oh, there it is. Hi, yes, Walnut Creek. I see it now, Donna. You're right. You did send it. Where in California is Walnut Creek?
It's northeast of San Francisco.
Okay. I have been to Point Reyes,
Okay.
including the Point Reyes Lighthouse.
Okay, that's north.
That's north. Okay.
Further north.
Oh, you're northeast. That's right. I always get mixed up on the coast. So I always think that the coasts are east, but except for when you're in the west, in which case they're west.
Nope, the coast is the west.
I was always confused. I lived in Idaho for 5 years, and we would go into Eastern Oregon, and I used to think, isn't that near the ocean? No, it's Western Oregon, and Western Washington are near the ocean. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you here. We're going to do another Rick Steves. We got about another week of Rick Steves. And tonight is cuisines and foods of the Middle East. And I love Middle Eastern food. We'll have a discussion later. While we're watching, Rick, you can think about your favorite Middle Eastern food. I've got several. And I have a little extra I'll show you about Middle Eastern food because we have, my wife and I have had foreign students or exchange students live with us a lot over the decades. I mean a lot. And we live in a town with a university, one large state university and a couple small private universities. And we've often had students board with us and live in an apartment that we rent on the bottom floor of our house. And well, let's see. At least 6 years, if not 7, we had students from Saudi Arabia live with us, and one boarded in our house, and he was a pretty good cook, and he used to make supper for us almost every week because he loved to cook so much. So he's such a member of the family. His photos on the wall with all my kids. I'm going to go ahead and start a screen share here. Oh, I had a question before we start. How many of you are watching tonight on a mobile device, either an iPad or a phone? Either raise your hand or just put up a virtual hand if you can do the reaction button. Judy, you've given yourself away because it says iPad Judy.
I have an iPad.
iPad. So most people are on either a desktop or laptop. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Laura's calling from work, I think.
Yeah, I am.
I remember that before. You were at
Yeah,
work and you had your
there I
mask on,
am.
and I wondered why you had a mask on. You were at work.
I still have it on. I'm at work. Here I am at the U of M in a big old dining room.
Very good. Well, welcome
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people schedule or book classes on mobile devices, and then they actually watch them on a desktop or laptop. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Again, tonight you can put questions or comments in the chat while during the video or after or before, and we'll come around and discuss those. And also, I asked tonight if you would, if you're new, if you've come in the last minute or two, please put in the chat where you're from, and you all should be thinking about your favorite Middle Eastern food, and we'll have some discussion about Middle Eastern foods because I've always loved Middle Eastern food. Let's see, that's not that one. Let's make sure we're looking at the right thing here. We should be on Foodie Wednesdays. So you should see something on your screen that says Foodie Wednesdays. Is that what you all are seeing? Very good. That's not a Middle Eastern food. That food right there is from Alsace, where they're heavy on meat and potatoes, but it was really good. Foods of the Middle East. I'm Russ Eanes, your Get Set Up guide. Oops, went a little too far. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. We were all talking about where we're from. Harrisonburg is in Western Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. I am a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. I formerly was a book publisher, and I loved to help authors shape their ideas into a book. I really loved working with authors. Still work with people who are authors or want to write at Get Set Up. So we had a class earlier today about starting a memoir. And now I'm a full-time guide with Get Set Up, and I love the energy that I get from working with all of you folks. So I'm really having fun these days teaching and being a guide on Get Set Up. Get Set Up helps you learn useful skills from people like you so you can do wonderful things. We learn from each other, and ideally your cameras, we can see you and your cameras are on. You can request a recording after class of this class by emailing help@getsetup.io. And if you're joining by live stream, and tonight we are live streaming this class, the best way to participate is to join us and register for a class. And lastly, Get Set Up is not paid to promote any specific products. So if I'm promoting anything tonight, it's simply because it's the best thing we thought we could show this evening. But we're just an educational organization. And Rick Steves came to Get Set Up on April 13th. That was a week ago last night. And a lot of us saw him. He was great. Besides thinking of your favorite Middle Eastern foods, if any of you watch Rick Steves, you can think about what your favorite quote was. You can still continue to watch Rick Steves. He will be on tomorrow and Friday. I'll check the times here. I have them written down somewhere. He'll be on 9 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow evening. You can watch a replay, or 6 p.m. on Friday. So if you missed that, don't worry. Get Set Up TV has Rick Steves. He talked quite a bit in the interview, and also he on his podcast. If any of you heard the I Built This podcast about what he did last year, because last year was an awful year for anyone who was in the touring business, tour guide, book business. He had to cancel the tours for 30,000 people. It's a big hit to his bottom line, and his guidebook sales dropped by 90%. And if you realize that Rick had like 25 of the top 30 guidebooks that are for sale in the US, that was a huge hit to his business. But he kept his staff on, didn't let people go. And he said this in an article about that. Our mission is to inspire Americans to venture beyond Orlando. We owe it to our mission to still be around after this is done. He means after the pandemic is done. So America can be less fearful and open to the world with a mindset of building bridges instead of building walls. And that's what I really love about Rick's philosophy. He really wants us to build bridges in the world, not build walls to separate ourselves from one another. So that's a lot of his personal mission, is building understanding between different cultures so we can all live a whole lot less afraid of one another. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about cuisines, again, foods of the Middle East. And I'm going to share again. I'm going to make sure I'm set here for video. We'll do some Rick Steves video, and then we'll have a chance to talk about it when it's over.
Here in Egypt, like almost anywhere, there's a big gap between rich and poor. In the relative cool of the evening, the prosperous streets of downtown are filled with window shoppers and thriving eateries. Clearly a world for Egypt's more privileged class. And gated social clubs in a place like Egypt provide a refuge where the wealthy can live in a parallel world, protected from the gritty reality of the streets. My friend Tarek, who runs a successful tour company, has invited me out for the evening. Tarek grew up as a member here, he met his wife here, and today their children enjoy this privileged environment almost daily. These clubs have something for all generations. Birthday parties, playgrounds, competitive sports. Adults can retreat to the no-kid zone to play a quiet game of croquet with friends they've been socializing here with since childhood, or just to watch from the peaceful terrace. We finish our evening just down the street at Tarek's home, joining his family for dinner. So how do you say, in French, you would say bon appetit?
Bon appetit, yeah.
In Arabic?
بالهنا والشفا.
Milhana?
بالهنا والشفا.
Bilhana?
بالهنا والشفا.
That's very difficult. Bon
Yeah.
appetit.
It's easier.
I think so. Heba, this is so beautiful. Can you give me, please, a tour of this beautiful Egyptian meal?
Sure. This is moussaka.
Okay.
This is the stuffed vine leaves.
Stuffed vine leaves.
Okay, and this is okra with tomato sauce.
Okra. Nice.
Very delicious. And this is the Egyptian beef with onion sauce. And this is, of course, rice. This is the rokak.
Rokak?
Yes.
What is rokak?
It's some kind of pastry stuffed with minced meat.
And
This is the ziki.
tzatziki. So we have
Common
moussaka.
between us and Greek.
And I was going to say moussaka, stuffed grape leaves, and tzatziki.
Yeah.
A
but cooked in
Greek would say
Egyptian
that's
way.
my food, but it's Egyptian also.
We cook it differently.
Okay. There we go. Thank you, sir. Shukran. So is it normal for children to speak English and Egyptian?
Actually, the international school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your kids go to international school?
Yes, American ones.
Sometimes on Friday or Thursday, we watch on the TV, Netflix, we choose an English movie.
You can choose Egyptian or
Yeah.
English.
Family movie.
Family
we call it
movie,
family
yeah,
movie.
every Thursday night is family movie.
And Heba, what do you wish for your daughters to be successful and to be happy?
To have good faith,
Uh-huh.
good education as well, to be open-minded,
Uh-huh.
self-confident.
Beautiful.
No,
I
that's
think you're on the
easier.
right road. I think you're on the right
I
road.
hope so. I hope so.
It's lovely. For me, no visit to Alexandria is complete without venturing into its ramshackle market district. While you can buy just about anything in these thriving and exotic streets, there's also a strong sense of community that naturally comes with such population density. And to better enjoy this convivial scene, I'm joined by my Egyptian friend Tarek in a classic shisha joint. As I've done in Turkey and elsewhere in the Middle East, I occasionally enjoy this traditional and very social form of smoking.
Nice, huh?
This is a beautiful scene. It's easy to relax here.
So relaxing, comfortable, peace.
A lot of people in the United States, they say this would be a hookah or a hubbly bubbly. What is this in Egypt?
Shisha, it's called shisha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and few people now call it hookah, habli bubbly, argila.
Is it some tobacco or what are we smoking?
It's a tobacco flavored with different tastes. It could be apple, strawberry, mint, too many.
If I smoke and smoke and smoke, will I get dizzy?
If you spend like 2 or 3 hours, you would get dizzy. This is finishing one of those is like finishing 2 packets of cigarettes. Sorry. But the people are doing it all the time. We do it casually. Let's just vent out, be casual, socializing, talking with friends. We do it with close friends. We vent out and talk and have fun.
Well, clearly Tarek could spend the rest of the evening right here. We've got some exploring to do. The short walk is filled with cultural serendipity. And we'll start with dessert. It's hard to walk by this place without enjoying at least a taste.
Absolutely, and delicious.
That looks great. What are these?
This is sawabe Zainab, Zainab's fingers.
Zainab's fingers. Shukran.
Thank you, shukran.
The key to this kind of sightseeing? Have a curious spirit, have fun, and explore. These guys are way too fast for me. The entire neighborhood is an endlessly fascinating market, and it's open late. There's fresh bread, very fresh poultry, olives straight from the desert, and something I noticed everywhere, friendly and inviting people. I know about 6 words of Arabic, but it didn't stop the smiles. You can get whatever you need around here, including a quick trim before dinner. Cairo is a fascinating clash between traditional and modern, religious and secular, east and west. While its chaos can be exasperating, it can also be a rewarding challenge for the adventurous traveler. I find that simply venturing a few blocks away from the tourist-friendly bazaar, suddenly the tourists are gone, and I'm swallowed up in a completely local scene. Wandering through the colorful market streets here in Cairo's Islamic Quarter, you feel that it goes on forever. 3-wheeled tuk-tuks weave through the action. I love to hop in one for a quick joyride. There's something strangely graceful about this chaotic dance of careening vehicles, merchants, and pedestrians. Exploring the Islamic Quarter creates a montage of memories. It's a commotion of activity. Everywhere you look, something you've never seen before is happening. Somehow, bikers balance rustic racks of bread. Craftsmen inscribe marble tombstones with verses from the Holy Quran. The peaceful soul, after a blessed life, will finally rest in heaven. With a little effort, you'll find it can be easy to become part of the scene. In this shop, a man spins delicate strands of flour that will become a favorite local pastry. Kanafa. The classic street food here is kosheri, lentil, rice, pasta, garlic, and tomato sauce, all mixed together into a quick and cheap treat. The distinctive clanging stokes local appetites. And small bakeries are steadily producing hot balloons of pita bread, destined to be filled with falafel. Bread is subsidized by the government to make life easier for people struggling to feed their families. Walking through neighborhoods like this, you gain an appreciation for how just making ends meet is a daily struggle for millions in a teeming city like Cairo. Tel Aviv is a young city. If looking for historic charm, you can stroll the original main drag, Rothschild Boulevard, with its nostalgic cafes and venerable buildings. But Tel Aviv is gleamingly modern and growing fast. Its infrastructure is impressive, and its new buildings look to the future. Its beach scene comes with some of the best sand on the Mediterranean. A world away from the religiosity of Jerusalem, the people here seem focused on living for today. In this culture, food is love, and it seems to celebrate the bounty of the land. We sat down with our guide Benny and driver Kobe to get an edible lesson in this part of Jewish culture.
Hey, cheers. L'chaim.
L'chaim, very good. So Benny, could you say this is typical Israeli?
Yeah, you can say this is typical Israeli. Everything that you see here is grown here locally.
No, you could say this is Israeli, but it's also Arab cuisine.
Yes.
Everywhere.
We call it now Israeli food, but you can find it in the Arab countries, you can find it in Lebanon, you can find it all over the Middle East. Here we have eggplants with olive oil and tahini. Here we have the tahini itself. Here we have another eggplant salad with vegetables. That's the hummus, very famous hummus made from chickpeas. This is something special. This we call tabbouleh. It's made of burghul and parsley and cucumbers. Very special, very tasty. It's okay to reach and dip your pita bread into it. You dip it in each of the salads, and that's the way to do it. No need of a fork or a knife.
And Kobe, how do you say bon appetit in Hebrew?
Bete avon.
Bete
avon.
Bete avon. Thank you.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. Our first stop is Batir Natural Park, famed for its hikes through olive groves and ancient terraces. Here in the Holy Land, the land itself is holy to its inhabitants. And for Palestinians, the olive tree is a kind of lifeblood for their culture.
We're in Palestine. This is Palestine, Rick. These are the biblical terraces of Batir. And we call them biblical because they're over 2,000 years of age. My ancestors came here and carved these terraces into the mountains. It was the only way for them to survive. You know, the mountains are hilly, you need the terraces to plant on them. They did that at that time, and guess what? We exist till today. We're still here, only through them. That's why I love this place. This tells me this is where I belong. It tells me this is Palestine.
What do olives mean to the Palestinian people?
Oh, olives, they're the best trees. They're the poor man's tree, because the olive tree gives without taking. The olive tree gives us the olives without even needing us to do anything for it.
It's October, and across the land, as they have since ancient times, families gather in the olive groves for the harvest. Children are let out of school for the week so they can work the trees with their parents. In the West Bank, 60% of the trees are olive trees. To Palestinians, the beloved olive tree represents their past and their future. As they say, it was planted by our grandfathers for us to eat, and we plant it for our grandchildren to eat. In nearby villages, families take their olives to the communal press to make oil. The ancient technique survives, though boosted by hard-working machinery, as a busy crew in oil-soaked shirts meets the demands of the harvest season. Rounds of olive paste are pressed into a weeping mass. The fresh oil, after filtering, becomes a golden liquid poured into jugs to be taken home.
Helps if I unmute myself. Before we talk about favorite Middle Eastern foods, is there anybody that has been to either Egypt or Palestine or Israel and can say something about what they ate there?
I've been to Israel and I ate most of what they showed at that meal. I love that food. It's delicious.
Isn't that great? Yeah. Anyone else?
I have, Russ.
Yes, Judy?
I've been to Egypt, had couscous and tagine with eggs and tomatoes. It's delicious.
Now remind me what couscous is made with.
It's like a semoli grain, like almost a rice,
It's
but
a
it's
grain.
hand rolled out in butter.
Okay, I remember it's little tiny like balls almost made together into like a um, a ball.
Like rice.
Like
Yeah.
rice, yes.
And you put meat and vegetables on top of it.
That's right. And falafel is that made with chickpea?
I'm not sure.
Anybody know what falafel's made with? I've had it as well. I like falafel and couscous.
Yeah.
Chickpeas.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. Chickpeas. Okay. Chickpeas and hummus is made with chickpeas as well.
Yes, and tahini, sesame seed paste. Chickpeas and sesame seed paste. That's what hummus is.
That's right. We make our own hummus here, my wife and I. In fact, we just did a batch of chickpeas today. We do our beans in batches. We made refried beans, cooked black beans, and chickpeas. And I'm going to tell her when we're done here tonight, but that we need to go in and make the chickpeas are the last thing being done. We need to make sure we make some of that into hummus. I love hummus with a bit of tahini and or maybe some olive oil or something on the top to give some extra flavoring. It's really delicious. Have it with a bit of the pita bread. I enjoyed the way they were eating it at the table, reaching over and putting all those various things on their bread in the Middle East, not just in Israel, but where all the Middle Easterners I've known have told me that they don't eat with silverware. They eat it with their fingers or they dip their bread. I'll get to that in a minute when I talk about the meal our student used to make us. But I want to hear about anyone else's experience either traveling to any of those places or eating any of those foods. One thing that they didn't mention was they had a little, and the home he was in Cairo, I think that's where they were. She had a pastry, and with some kind of, did she say mince meats or meats inside? I didn't catch it. Anybody catch
I
what
didn't
that
either.
was?
Yes. Yeah, it can be made with meats inside. It's a lot of the food's close to Greek food. I'll go like this. I might be able to tell better. A lot of food is like the domadas that they were talking about. A lot of the foods are similar. The meat pies, you can fill them with cheese. You can fill them with spinach, teropitaka, spanikopita. It's the same kind of idea. It's a real common thread. I wrote down some of the things that, the lentils, or we make a Greek lentil soup, but the lentils were something that the only thing we don't do, which is fascinating, is smoke 2 packs of cigarettes with
that really got me when he showed me. They said 2 packs of cigarettes.
I'd have to stop if I heard that, because I'm not a smoker anyways, and the idea of me wolfing down 2 packs just for getting into the culture would not be happy.
I could try 1 puff of it just to understand what they're doing, but when he said 2 packs, I thought, no way I could sit there and puff on that.
Yeah. So I thought that was the part that was, we have some of those in Ann Arbor too for the students, which is kind of interesting. And I didn't realize that that's that much smoking. I'm like, wow, okay, to be 21, I don't know.
Yes, and the students we had with us would go to places where they would do the hookah pipes. Yep. One food they didn't mention, this is why I thought she was going to say this when she was showing that those pastries on the table in Cairo, was baklava. And again, you notice a similar cuisine across the whole Mediterranean area, from Greece to southern Italy to Egypt, Palestine, Israel. When you talk about Mediterranean diet, that's a lot of the stuff that's in it. It's very much on with the beans and oils and greens. And of course, I mentioned when I talked about walking through Italy, we saw lots and lots of olive groves. And I really appreciated those olive groves he was showing in Palestine, grown that the way they carved those terraces out of the mountainsides to put the olives in. One thing they didn't say, actually at the table in Cairo, she said they were having, I think she said Egyptian beef was the meat they were having. Does anybody catch it? That's what I thought she said. The big staple meat all through the Mediterranean, from Greece through Palestine, Israel, Egypt, I think of it as lamb. And when my wife and I were talking at supper, I was telling her about what we were doing this evening. And I asked her what her favorite, or what she remembered our Middle Eastern students eating the most of. She said, well, they had rice with lamb or lamb with rice. And there was a favorite meal that our student from Saudi Arabia made, the first student we had, who was not such a good cook, but he could make one thing. It was called kupsa. And to make kupsa, you would put in maybe a cup of dry rice, water, lots of salt, some peppers, chop up a pepper, chop up a tomato, and lamb or chicken. Put in the pressure cooker, pressure cook the whole thing to death. And then it would come out as kind of like this sticky ball. I always imagine it a bit like an ice cream, a scoop of ice cream, the way it came out. And then they ate it with their fingers. And we were always surprised when they made it, because whatever vegetables had gone into it were completely obliterated in it, where you couldn't tell that there was any tomato or pepper had ever been in that. And the other thing that surprised me was the amount of salt that I saw go in there. I didn't know where the salt went either. It didn't taste particularly salty. And I don't know if I just don't know what happened to the salt. It was a mystery my wife and I could never figure out was where all the salt went when they made kupsa. My wife, by the way, makes a very good baklava. That is some of us asked for that on our birthday instead of a cake. She's very good at making it. She's got quite the skill. And of course, there are many ways to make baklava. The traditional way is, of course, the layers of phyllo dough with crushed nuts, especially pistachio and honey. But there's many ways you can make baklava than just that traditional way. Jennifer, you've been to Egypt. Anything you want to tell us about being in Egypt? That's okay. You love the food. Very good. I can believe it. I also really enjoyed a couple things that Rick was doing. One was I enjoyed how he showed the street food in, I think they were in Cairo.
Yeah.
But it might have been Alexandria. Just showing them that guy serving up the little dishes that had rice and pasta, which I found interesting, rice and pasta, lentils, tomato sauce, and he had said something else. Almost looked like he was tossing a couple of chickpeas on top of it as well. Of course, yeah, chickpeas are a big part of their diet. But I also took note when he was talking about going through Alexandria, but maybe I'm getting mixed up with the third segment on Cairo. He said he liked how he enjoyed getting a few blocks away from the main tourist area. And that's something I really recommend whenever you go to a large city, anywhere in the world really, that has lots of tourists, is you get a few blocks away from there and you go to where the locals went. And I think he was showing the Islamic Quarter in Cairo, where the guy was bicycling down the street with the load of loaves of bread on his head. That was maybe the most amazing thing I saw tonight. I kept thinking, what if he has to stop all of a sudden? And I thought, well, he probably does it, and he knows how to do it. He probably knows how to go slow enough or weave in and out that he can keep that bread stacked on top of his head. Anything more about Middle Eastern foods? Anybody else want to tell what their favorite Middle Eastern food is? I think we just got a comment here that Jennifer says kosheri. That sounds very interesting.
And tabbouleh. They had tabbouleh.
Tabbouleh, yes.
I love tabbouleh.
I do too. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the desserts are like a donut, but with no hole. And they fry them in oil and then they dip them in honey. Boy, are those good.
That sounds like a glazed donut.
Yeah, we have those in Greek food, and they're called loukoumades. And they are like, you're exactly right. They're like a dough ball. They are like a dough ball because they are dough. That's about
Right.
it.
It's a ball of dough.
I hate to say it, but that's about all it is. And then you roll them and they're sticky, like the size of a walnut was the best size. People would make them bigger, and then you drop them into the hot grease. And you're right, it fries all up. And then you take 3 or 4 or 5 of them in a little bowl, and then you drizzle honey on top and a little powdered sugar. And you have 100% like a hot, gooey donut that's fried. I mean, I don't think there's anything good for you, but it's definitely traditional. And with the baklava, I call it baklava too, but I notice a lot of the Arabic families and so forth in my world here that, we have such a diverse community, they call it baklav, not baklava. And so it's very interesting. And then the other dessert that I think you were referencing, or someone else, that stringy, did you see him have that stringy phyllo dough, kind of like that? That's I think it's called kaftia. I may not be pronouncing it correct, but it's like, in English, we would nickname it the bird's nest, because it was just like phyllo dough wrapped around in a spiral nest almost, with a lot of honey, sweet and delicious. So, and a little nut sometimes on top, sometimes even pistachio. So it seems like there's so much of that crosses over. But I have to support that everybody, what you're saying is, I love all those. I grew up on it, but I also love all those foods. I'm quite Americanized, so I don't get those foods as much as I used to, but when I travel, and that's why I love this. There's much to be learned still about all the other countries that have same foods. Yeah.
Is Kokalis Greek,
Yes.
Laura? That's what I was going to guess. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
When my wife and I lived near Pittsburgh, we were about 50 miles south, and we would go up to Pittsburgh for business about once a month. And there was a Middle Eastern restaurant that we always stopped and ate near the University of Pittsburgh on Craig Street. I can't remember the name of it, but we always stopped there and ate. That had the baklava for dessert, but I also loved anything that if they had a sandwich or something with falafel or couscous. Love those tastes. We also have a very diverse community here in Harrisonburg. We have quite a few Latin stores, but we also have quite a few Middle Eastern stores. And of course, my wife and I like to stop in the Middle Eastern stores and get some of the breads freshly, when they've been freshly made. One of our favorite dishes actually is to take these breads they're kind of actually should be the kind of a puffy diamond shape, and we slice them in half and split them open and make pizzas with them. I've discovered that their flatbread is better than any pizza dough you can make. We put it in the oven early on a stone and get it real crispy, and then we put the pizza fixings on top of it. Let's see, Joanne's talking about the Jewish section of Paris. The Marais, yes, there's a Laf du Falafel restaurant, okay, where you can get an excellent falafel sandwich. I think we should all hop a flight to go over there and sample it, Joanne. I'm ready to go tomorrow. I'm not sure that the Parisians are ready for us to come, but maybe they would welcome us coming and spending a few euros in the restaurants. I'm going to share something with you here in a minute, because I'm going to tell you a story about the Saudi Arabian student who lived with us and how he became a good cook and then shared his cooking with us, and how I really came to appreciate it. This fellow, let's see if I can find the slide here. This is, I realize it's a little bit distant, but his name was Youssef. He's from Saudi Arabia, and he was the 4th Saudi Arabian student who lived with us, but he lived with us for about 4 years. He actually boarded in our house, and he's showing a big platter here that he made. And he made this thing in the most unusual way. He and I had gone out together. I might have mentioned this last night. We slaughtered a lamb. He did it according to very traditional way it had to be done in Islam. We slaughtered the lamb, and someone kind of skinned it and then cut it up for us. So, and then we brought it home, and he and I continued to butcher it more at home. And of course, it was an older lamb, so it needed to be cooked a lot. But we would get the lamb out about once every 2 weeks, and we would throw some of it in a slow cooker. But this time he made it in a slow cooker in a big pot on top of the stove, and he put all of the lamb and lots of vegetables, onions, peppers, into the pot with and some tomatoes and other sauces into the pot with the lamb, and that stewed for several hours. And then he made some rice, and then he threw the rice on top of all those things that were in the bottom of the pot, and let the rice continue to kind of get the flavors of all the things that were in the bottom of the pot on. Is a better picture, on top of the meat and the vegetables and all the great sauces, and again cooked that for another hour. And then he did the most amazing thing. So this platter is about 18 inches or 20 inches across, this big pot, which is about 16 inches across itself. And we took the platter and put the platter on top of the pot on the stove, and then we brought it over to the counter, and we took the whole thing, and in one shot we turned it 180 upside down so that it spilled out. And the way it then came out of the pot was all the rice was, of course, because it had been at the top of the pot, when you turn it upside down, the rice was on the bottom. And then we had all the lamb and other vegetables and things all on top of the rice like this. And it was a very traditional way they would cook it. And I had to hand it to Yusuf, because in his family, the women did all the cooking. But when he came to the US, his parents, his mother in particular, and father, but especially his mother, impressed two things upon him. One was that he needed to keep his religious faith up, and he went to he said his prayers every day. He went to the mosque every week. The other thing was she taught him to cook, and he'd never cooked in his life. And he discovered that he really liked cooking. And Yusuf was an interesting fellow, because besides the fact that he was in the US studying, working on a master's degree in education, he'd actually been in a bad car accident when he was about 18, and he spent 2 years in the hospital, including a year in Germany. And it really opened his mind up to other cultures. And so he was just very refreshing and open to all sorts of things. And so he learned to cook from his mom. And then when he came here, he continued to learn more and more things. And my wife is a great cook, and we like to eat a lot of vegetarian things. And he even learned to eat a lot of vegetarian dishes and bowls. He in the Middle East, they don't eat necessarily very many vegetables, so he loved to cook vegetarian as well. This was our favorite dish. And then we took it into the living room. We put down a tablecloth on the floor, and a couple more people came over, and we sat in a circle around this big platter and ate everything out of the platter with our hands. So that was my one of my favorite Middle Eastern dishes that I've had. And he would cook for us nearly every week the last year that they lived with us. And which was great, because we were both working. My wife worked part-time, I worked full-time. And just because he loved to cook, he cooked for us. So anyway, we've loved having foreign students in our house, especially loved having Saudi Arabian students, very, very different culture, but very, very, several young men that were very open, and we had a great cultural exchange, and especially loved the cultural exchange of the food. And I would have to say that I think food is one of the best ways for cultures to exchange and learn from each other. And as I've said in other times in some of these other classes, for my wife and me, when we travel, we really like to sample the local cuisine, even if the local cuisine isn't necessarily something we would want to eat at home. I'm mostly vegetarian, don't eat a lot of meat, but if I go somewhere where meat's part of the diet every day, we'll have some meat with them, no problem, because we want to sample the local cuisines. I think last night they were showing when Rick was in Switzerland, they were showing a fondue. And I thought, well, of course they're having a cheese fondue in Switzerland, because the Swiss make cheese that's not like Swiss cheese you get here in the US, where they make cheeses. And I think I shared about going out to a farm where they were making cheese up in the high altitudes in the summer. But I think the best way to learn other cultures is to sample the foods. And what I appreciate is how many of the things you can see have to do with the local and climate and the geography where they live. And you can see that, like in Palestine, it's very arid. And so one thing that they can grow there very well is the olive tree. And so besides olive oil, and I was really fascinated to see how they did that olive. That was really interesting when they had that big stone rolling around and they made that paste, and then they took the paste and they put them on discs and they put all the discs together and they pressed them. That was really something to see how they did that. So those are all big parts of their diet, but that's very much related to the environment in which they're living. So anybody else have any thoughts or comments about Middle Eastern foods?
They do a lot of shish kebabs too. They put
You're
lamb
right.
and then vegetables on it, and then they push it off into a pita bread.
And that's something we would have a lot with our Saudi Arabian students, is shish kebab, especially in the summer when we could go throw them on the grill. That's right.
Yeah, they have shawarma also.
Shawarma, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
And they didn't show when they were in Greece, I don't think. Was it last week we were seeing food in Greece? The hero, which is made from lamb, wrapped up inside pita bread. So I want to extend an invitation if there's anyone here who's interested tonight that would like to share something one evening coming up in the next months about a trip, about a food, about anything historical or cultural from any of their travel. Let me know. I will put my my email in the chat here for you. And you can reach out to me by email. You can also give us feedback in the email that you will get after your class tonight. I'm just looking, I'm going to grab my new email address we have here. Let's see. I believe it's Russ the Guide. I'm not finding it right now. It's a brand new. There it is. Nope. Nope, that's not it either. Well, I'm not finding my email. My new Get Set Up Guide email. I wanted to show you all. But I want to invite you to give us feedback when you get your email after this class, because there's always a follow-up email after the class every evening. Any more comments or questions? Any ideas anyone has?
I think the only thing I'm going to say is every European city that I've been to, or place or country, they have those giant open markets. And like we saw the chickens here, Morocco, I saw the same thing. I saw them pedaling the bikes with big cages of live chicken in the back. And I was just overwhelmed with the, it seemed old school, you know, the back ways of doing things, and the way my grandparents always talked about doing things. And the difference here is, you know, I'm in a really clean health environment. So my background is, you know, gloves for everything. You can't, no cross contamination. Every single food item I have out here in all our dining halls, everything has an allergy attached label. We can't even serve, I gotta think of, like applesauce. We have actually applesauce out of a can right now because we weren't able to make it. But we have to have the exact ingredients and a disclaimer because things are just so different. And I find it really liberating to see the markets, the whole idea that you could just cruise in the market and say, give me this, give me this, give me this. So yeah. I love that. Just want to put it out there. I think that's an amazing experience. So
yeah, street food is the most fun.
I support that. Yep.
You said it, Donna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have street food.
I know.
Yeah. Plus the vegetables are all fresh.
Everything's fresh. Everything's fresh.
Bread,
yeah.
Fish, everything.
Fresh meat, fresh. Yeah, everything is fresh. So we can't get better than that.
No.
Yeah. You really can't. You really can't. And even where I live, my wife and I try to get all the local foods, all our foods as local as we can. And we like to put up local foods, whether it's apples or strawberries. We actually grow blueberries. We got 50 pounds of blueberries last year, almost enough.
Whoa.
Pretty much enough blueberries to last us the whole year. We
That's
put in the
so
freezer.
cool.
But we don't have very many strawberries we grow here. We'll go pick them or find them in a local market and get them what we call real strawberries. You slice them open and they're red inside.
Yeah.
I know that when we traveled, we always, if we couldn't find the open market, we would always try to find a grocery store and go in there and just look at all the items. It's just so interesting to see. Like when you went to Korea, I've never seen so many different kinds of chili powder in my life.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yep.
That is. And one thing I've developed a taste for that I didn't know I would have, but over the last 10 years is hot, spicy things. I used to not like anything hot, spicy. And then, I don't know, somebody told me about some of the health benefits of it. And I started trying it. And then I discovered I love it. In fact, we just put some hot, spicy stuff on the supper we had tonight. And I think the reason I like it is because whenever I have something hot and spicy, my head clears out. And I think I can because I can smell better, I can taste better. That's the only thing I can think about it.
I'm from the East Coast, and when I came to the Midwest, I love spicy. I couldn't believe no one in the Midwest would have anything spicy.
I knew this one lady, she had like severe allergies, and her allergy medicine was really expensive. And then she used to say, you know what I do now? I just have a bowl of chili and her sinuses clear out. Seriously, that's why she doesn't even take her allergy pills anymore. She just has a bowl of chili.
There you go. That'll do it. And
Put a little Frank
it's
sauce.
amazing.
Well,
Put a little
go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Put a little Frank's hot sauce on it.
Yeah.
We grow jalapenos, which are a milder hot pepper, and we either chop them up and freeze them, and kind of just chopped up and frozen. You can throw them in something if you want a whole jalapeno, or we dry them. And we we make refried beans, our own refried beans, and part of the way we cook them is we put them in a one pot, and then we throw in some vegetable bouillon, just a big chunks of onion, cloves of garlic, and several dried jalapenos. And then later, when it's all done, we grind it up, and it's the best way to eat. So I love doing that. Well, go ahead.
The jalapenos that we have, we don't even cut them up. We just throw them in the freezer whole and just take them out and use a grater and just grate it on top of the food that way.
That's a great idea. I'm going to remember that.
Even a lazier way of doing it. We just throw it in the freezer.
So do you grate them while they're still frozen and hard, Donna?
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Don't even thaw it out. You just use what you need and then just throw it back in the freezer.
That's a great idea. I'm going to remember that.
I love that.
A lot of things are work really well with that, like that. Not just peppers, but for instance, fresh ginger.
Yeah.
Just freeze it.
Yes.
And then it's very easy to peel with a potato peeler when it's frozen. And then you just slice off, just use a peeler to just slice off little pieces of it. It's very easy to handle when it's frozen.
Has anybody here ever grown ginger?
No.
I grew ginger 2 years ago, and I'm going to grow it again this year. You have to wait till the soil's warm enough, so it has to be into May. You just go get some pieces, some chunks of ginger. They look like little feet with fingers, or feet with toes, or hands with fingers. And you can just cut those off where you can see there's a little growth node on them, and you put them in the soil, and they'll grow into, I don't know what they call things of ginger, but they'll grow into that whole thing of ginger, and they're great. But again, you have to wait till the soil's warm. We grew ginger and turmeric 2 years ago.
How long did it take?
It takes a long time. You need the whole summer. But what's really fascinating about the ginger is actually the turmeric as well. The leaves, they look a lot like little palm plants grow as they grow. They're amazing. and they're quite resilient. Once they've established, they don't come up right away. You need to give them some time. You'll be about ready to give up on them and thinking nothing's going to come up. You have to keep weeding the soil, and then you'll notice that the ginger's popping up. So I read about that and decided to give it a try. I think I won't do the turmeric again. We have enough turmeric.
How big did the plant get?
The plant gets at least 2 to 3 feet tall, depending.
Oh, wow.
I grew mine in pots, and they're actually sort of decorative out on the deck, which I liked. So I will try that again this year. You have to keep them a bit moist, not wet, but a bit moist. But again, you have to start them in May. I started them early on and nothing happened. So they have to have soil 60 degrees or above.
How big was the pot? Was it like 5 gallons or smaller?
No, I grew them in like a pot that was maybe 12 inches across, maybe 12 inches high.
Small. Okay.
Yeah, just like a houseplant pot, and I grew them right alongside my deck flowers. So love to grow your own spices and things. My wife will tell you that if the organic spices actually make a big difference, because that when they radiate spices, when they come, a lot of spices are imported, they get radiated, and that affects the nutritional value of a lot of them. So, hey, this is a great conversation. I'm now edging into Deb's nutrition classes. I'll have to tell Deb about this. So if any of you have taken any Deb's classes, she's fabulous. And, but we have to go, and I enjoyed this so much. Tomorrow we'll do art in Spain. That's going to be a great one with El Greco and, I keep not pulling the names out of my hat.
Goya, Velasquez, Picasso.
Picasso, but I'm thinking of the 20th century artist that was the one who was
Goya?
the most. No, not Goya.
Gaudi.
Gaudi. They show Gaudi. They show Gaudi's architecture and art. And Dali, that's who I was thinking of.
Oh, there we go.
Salvador Dali. Okay.
Great segment on Dali. You will really enjoy. So tomorrow at 4:00, and Friday at 4:00, we'll be doing history in France, and then we'll continue Rick Steves for next week. And we'll have some other programming about some things about travel the week after that, plus a lot of practical travel tips. Next week we'll do our first class on traveling solo. So if any of you are solo travelers, come. There's going to be a great panel discussion with 3 learners, and come and share your tips as well. Or if you want to learn how to travel solo or travel safely, come and join us. You were a great group tonight, and I enjoyed having you all. And I'll see some of you perhaps tomorrow or next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
Russ, I have
Yes.
a question for you.
Yes, Judy.
How come Steve is not doing, Rick Steve is not making any new programs? He did Egypt. That's the only one he's done. He keeps doing repeats.
I think it's because he wasn't traveling.
Well, no, not last year. I mean, even 2 years
before that.
He never makes new ones.
I can't answer that. That's a very good question. You'll have to ask that question of someone. Maybe I'll find the answer to that. I do know that he said that there's a lot of work and time goes into making these shows. So maybe
I don't know.
That's a
Well, he
good,
did
very
a
good question.
two-parter. He did a 2-parter on Egypt, which was new
Yes.
from a year ago. But there hasn't been anything else. And, I can't watch them over and over again. But anyway, I just thought you might know.
No, I don't know, but I'll see if I can find out, Judy.
Okay.
Thanks. Good night,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you. This was good.
Bye.
Bye-bye.